are a company which work very closely with the law enforcement and the defense sector, primarily to provide them solutions to prevent, detect, identify and mitigate risks coming from the cyber attacks or cyber crimes. In fact, after land, air and water, cyberspace has become such an important space for either a cyber warfare or a cyber defense. And that's the reason why we thought that there is a need for cutting-edge solutions which are required by the law enforcement and the defense sector to prepare themselves for this ongoing threats which are coming in. In India, we are working both with the homeland as well as the defense. However, in the overseas market, we've entered the African and the Middle East market, where we are primarily working with the homeland security. In fact, homeland security in India, is more like the Ministry of Home Affairs. But if you look at it, there are a lot of financial crimes which are happening using cyber. So we work with the Ministry of Finance as well. And because the enforcement agencies which are part of that. We work with an agency which is called Serious Fraud Investigation Office, which is part of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So it's not just the homeland of, but it is also some of these enforcement agencies we work with. However, what we largely do in a bigger sense is that we enable these agencies with technologies and skills so that they are able to detect, let's say, from a police perspective, they should be able to detect cyber crimes which are affecting the citizens. One is that, the citizens need to be taken care from a cyber crime which is affecting them. Things like identity theft or, financial frauds which are happening with the citizens on the banking side. However, a lot of, state actors are interested in figuring it out how the neighboring countries or these terrorism groups, they're using social media and open source intelligence and cyber attacks to attack national interest or critical infrastructure. And that's what is bothering them, because if I'm able to somehow get into a nuclear plant, for that matter, I can sabotage it. Or if I can get into the stock market of India, I can bring the trade down. Or if I can get into the smart grids of this country, then I can make the city shut down or a traffic system or whatever, because more and more automation is happening. At the same time, if we are not prepared ourselves for cyber defense, then we got to be careful. We have these two groups with us. One is the group which only focuses on the government space, and if you look at it, traditionally our business has been tilted almost 70% towards the government and the law enforcement sector. Because they are really spending money on this. We are almost $100+ billion worth of an IT industry, and almost 60% of that is an export industry. We ourselves are not realizing our potential. If you look at the moment any event happens, then our agencies would just wake up. The leadership would just say, this 26/11 happened in Mumbai, bomb attack in High Court happened here, or whatever. So whenever these terrorism events happen, then we come and have a knee-jerk reaction on that. And that's not something which, is advisable. What is advisable is a sustained, continuous planning and execution, which can go a long way. I mean, if you look at some of the countries like Israel, for that matter, they have response teams which can respond to an emergency or an event or a cyber attack within few hours. Look at example of France, how quickly they could respond to a situation, which affected about 100+ people. Here, thousands of people may die, but we still are struggling to figure out, how to pass even a legislation in the parliament. They took few days to just say this is what we're going to do, and the entire parliament was in unison to just clear that legislation. That's what they did when they were having the surveillance law passed in few minutes or few days, when the last attacks happened. So that's the difference. GIS industry or the geospatial industry, they have been really working hard to tell everybody that the impact of visual is more than the impact of a kind of report you would get. So the agencies are realizing today that if they can see a map and the relationship and linkages from that map, geo is going to transform a lot of things. I mean, look at our own personal lives. I mean, when I had to travel from my home to this place to attend this conference, I straight away used Google Map, right? And it was so efficient and so quick that it made my life very easy. Similarly, when agencies have to make correlation, linkages, relationships, analytics, and if they can see all that on these maps, and they can build layers of information on that, it becomes so easy. If there was an emergency in this place, and if I have all the data sitting there, I just need to keep on clicking, and I know exactly how the response has to get around there. So they are realizing that there is an importance of this, but they have to really put hard money on the table before they start executing this. So that's my take on that. You see, yeah, you're right that the on-the-ground change is yet to be seen, but the kind of programs which this current government is talking about, especially things like smarter cities, smarter governance, the emphasis on digital India, I think these programs will definitely use a lot of it. I mean, if you look at land records, they got transformed completely when the GIS came into picture. Yeah, today you can actually know where your water bodies are. Today you know where your resources are. I'm sure a lot could have been done to prevent the current Chennai floods had we used GIS in a much bigger way. Or the National Disaster Management Authority would have been using GIS in a much bigger way. So there is a lot which has to happen on the ground. But as I mentioned, the issues are the same. Leadership not having a vision, resources not getting utilized in a more sustainable manner, and I think execution is the key. One of the things we should do is we should encourage our own innovation and development to happen in this country. At the end of the day, we still rely on a lot of international technologies. I don't think so we are any inferior than them.